Hi, this is David Fernandez from Plateau Productions, and you are listening to Beyond the Plateau, a podcast from Plateau Productions. Today, we are revisiting with our favorite artist out of Germany, Mila Ziska.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's funny, me and Mila were just talking before we came on that I think I mispronounced your last name probably like 15 times different when we did our last podcast. And I went back and looked at the podcast myself, and it is actually 1 year to the day, exactly today. Did you notice that? Yeah.
I did not.
We did it February 3rd of 2021.
Oh my God.
And folks who are listening to this, like, we do this podcast over Zoom, and there's total surprise on Mila's face right now because I didn't even notice either. We had been trying to work on our schedules and everything, and we just picked today because it worked for both of us. And I looked back, and it is exactly 1 year today. So I actually think it's 366 days because I think there was one extra day in February last year. So,
wow.
Thank you, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
I think first and foremost, we should just kind of like basically congratulate you for being part of Plateau Productions management team. So,
yay! Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be part of the roster. I'm so excited to be back on today. Yep. Happy anniversary to our podcast interviews, I guess. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So let's talk about just really, really briefly. So I do get a lot of questions sometimes of, why do you manage this artist, or, how does an indie artist get managed, and what is management and whatnot. And I think, when we did our original live stream with you, I think I kind of dropped some hints to you like over and over and over and over again, saying like it would be a good partnership, and, we believed in your music and we believed what you were doing. And, just super excited, of our, dialogue with each other, and, the documents that you send over to me, and just the good flow of, information that we put forward and backwards and sideways and up and down. And I'm extremely excited to be working with you, and, super excited of, what's to come over the next few months. And we'll talk about that briefly. But first and foremost, how's COVID in Germany?
Not too good. Not too great. I think that is probably something that applies to most places in the world right now, at least as far as I know. Yeah. Short and sweet, not too fantastic.
And are you guys still like in lockdown protocols, or is Germany fairly open just with a lot of precautions and whatnot?
It's fairly open for either vaccinated or recovered people. And everyone who's neither has a little bit of a hard time right now for, any type of gastronomy or retail or events. Yeah, so I don't think actually there might be a lockdown for unvaccinated and unrecovered, so like the third group. I think they might have some contact restrictions right now, but that does not apply to me, so I don't really keep up with that too much.
And with the other artists that we manage, and then obviously being friends with a ton of other musicians and artists, is that obviously gigging and everything has been extremely difficult and everything. So I kind of want to talk about that for a second of trying to release music these days, and then also knowing that there's not that great of an opportunity, especially there in Germany, to call up your local pub or your local venue and see if you can play an acoustic set or whatnot. So how has COVID affected you since the last year or so? I understand of COVID being still rampant within Germany, but tell our listeners about that.
It's actually really interesting. I was thinking about that today, how for my music career, I've never really known anything but COVID, because I released my first song in the summer of 2020, right into the first lockdown, thinking it would be a 2-week thing. It was not. But yeah, so for me, in my music career, it's almost like the norm to have those difficulties, to either have lockdown restrictions or to find venues that are allowed to have live music, stuff like that. And I think that's also why I focused on social media, or I still am have such a big focus on social media and the stuff I do and how I promote my music and how I communicate with my audience, really.
And we'll talk about the social media as well too, because I do want to touch on that. So tell us what you've been doing for the last year. What new music has been put out? Give us the rundown.
Yes. So last time we spoke, a year ago, apparently, we spoke about a song called Grey that I was planning to release. And so I did. So that came out, which I'm so excited about. It's one of my all-time favorites of mine. I mean, my songs kind of take turns in which one's my favorite, but right now Grey is definitely a strong contender for the top spot. So I released that. I was able to write with different people over the summer and go to different places and work a ton on different musical projects. And then as for releases, I put out a Christmas cover that I really wanted to do. That was a huge bucket list thing for me, because it was a traditional Christmas carol that I got to put my own spin on. And yeah, I guess the winter months were a lot of prep for the stuff that's to come this year.
Good. And then current Dear Demons came out in 2021 as well, right?
Yes, it came out just before our last conversation.
Right
so we spoke about that a lot.
Right before our conversation. And
yeah.
You had, I think one of the cool things about what I love about the singles that you have put out is that you had Grey and Dear Demons get remixed.
Yes.
Talk about that process, because I think, in this, in the world of digital music and the way that we listen to music and indie artists, that are not signed to major labels or smaller labels, you're always looking to try to do something a little bit different. And you are, you are the only artist that we manage that you've actually had two of your songs remixed. So how does that process come about? And is it scary because this was my song and now I'm going to give it to somebody else and, they're going to do what they want to do with it. I'm just going to give them the stems to my files and everything. And do you, let's do Dear Demons first. Was it like you have full autonomy to do whatever you want with it, or did you give the person a little bit of a little bit of direction, at least, of what you wanted the sound to be like?
You described it perfectly, the feeling of giving your child away.
Right,
yeah
right.
So it's almost exactly that. So how those remixes came to be, both of those were done by a producer and now a friend of mine who, like so many things for me and my music career, we started speaking on social media, and he contacted me telling me that he liked my music. I was like, thank you. And that's how we got to talking. And I really do enjoy EDM music myself. I don't make EDM. I don't know a lot about EDM, but I do enjoy listening to it. So when he offered to do those remixes, or Dear Demons, that was the first remix, when he offered to remix Dear Demons, I was really excited. And I did give him almost complete autonomy with what he was doing with it. My only requirements that I really wanted for the remix to have where to have the lyrics, like they were, or in a place where you could kind of understand the theme of the song, where it's not just vocal chops. I love vocal chops, but I wanted the message to convey still, and I wanted to not have my voice pitched so much, so to not have it an octave down or an octave up, how they sometimes do it, because I still wanted, I guess, like, for it to sound like mine, even though it's not really, but part of it is.
Right.
It was scary to give your child away. I like, to me it felt like giving your child into boarding school. That's what it must be like, or sending them off to college and then they come back a whole different person. But luckily I loved what they came back as.
And I think you hit on something that though nobody under our management, has done a song like that yet. And I'm doing yet in quotations because there's a couple things that we're working on. But some of my friends who have done that, you described it perfectly on a management level. If I was going to give one of those songs up, or if one of the artists that we manage was going to do that as well, is that, sometimes I've seen in the EDM is that, they'll just take one little section of the vocal and twist it and repeat it and loop it. And really, you have to go back to the original song to even kind of understand, well, what is this song about? Or, what context is this? Because there's so many, bits of the original song that has been taken apart, and that producer or that mixer, that engineer on the EDM side is just using one little small portion of it, which I think sometimes loses the feel and the concept of the song. So I applaud you for doing that. The person who did it's Marion, right?
Yeah.
And how do you pronounce his last name?
Klose.
So good. Just
the German names today.
There you go. Just wanted to make sure that people knew that. So now that those two songs in 2021 are done, let's talk about 2022. Will your average Mila fan be able to hear maybe some new music sometime this year?
They absolutely will. I think I have the strong feeling, and you and I both know we have the plan, we have the agenda to make this the year that I release the most music yet. And I'm so excited for all of it. So we have a single coming up very soon that I'm nervous about, but also super excited about, because I think it's some of my strongest, but also most personal songwriting yet. And then we have an EP for this summer, which is going to be this whole concept EP, and it has everything I love and so many songs that I adore. And yeah, it's very exciting.
So walk us through the process of it always amazes me, or makes me, I don't know, like think about the song that folks are going to be able to hear pretty soon, hopefully. Mm-hmm. You were currently in the studio for how many hours the other day?
Oh, that's when I texted you. Yeah, yesterday, 11. So 11? I was out of the house for 14 hours, but in the studio 11.
11 hours.
Traveling. Yeah.
What is that like? Because when I'm down in San Diego with my good friend Chris, and we're currently recording some music for Willowcrest, and prior to that I was with Rosie Nolan. Like after like 2 or 3 hours, and I know I'm not singing and I'm not playing, but I'm antsy. Like I'm like, so I can't imagine what 11 hours is like.
It was a marathon. Looking back, I'm not sure how we did it. I usually don't. I mean, when you get into songwriting, you really get into the zone. I think time can fly, but especially with recording sessions or mixing sessions, I like to keep them short and sweet to also stay alert. I think your hearing gets tired after a certain point, but we really wanted to get all the recordings done. And weirdly, strangely, after 11 hours, I was in the zone. We did vocals last. So for like the last hour, we did just the vocals, and it was, I think the mind space that we got in was so fitting for the song, because it's going to be a ballad, an acoustic ballad. And it was late at night. We were so tired, but at the same time, just really focused. Like it was this weird stage of nostalgia and awake, but also not awake. I don't know if that makes any sense, but also Darius, my dear producer, he was such a champ with those 11 hours, because by the end of it I was pretty dead, but he was still going and chopping vocals and setting up mics while I was on the floor like, oh my god.
Good. And so what would you say percentage wise? And we're not going to give the title up or anything yet, but percentage wise, how close are you guys done with the song? Almost there?
When you're really tired and you come home, or you did something for a really long time, you come home, you wake up the next morning, you have no idea what you did. Like, I know we recorded vocals, but I don't remember how it sounded in the end. So educated guess, I'm gonna say probably 70 to 75%, because really all that is left now is some mixing, some percussion maybe, and master, and then it's done.
Good. And you did mention that this song is, a personal song.
Yeah.
And, as with other artists I know and we manage and everything, those things are always, like, the breathing in sort of thing of like, this is a very personal thing for me, and how are my fans going to interact with it? How are, my friends and family, my loved ones going to interact with it? Did this, besides it being personal, was there like another artist out there, or a vibe or something that you're going after, or a sound or something? Or is this like just totally unique that you were in your private space where you thought about what the song wanted to sound like?
Good question. I mean, there probably are tons of artists that inspired the track, but in this case, subconsciously, I usually go in to recording sessions and sometimes even writing sessions with reference tracks when I really, really like an artist, and they have their song. I think it sounds great, and you borrow ideas from here and there. That's something that we all do.
Right.
But for this one, subconsciously, sure, but I couldn't name anyone, because it was really just me sitting down with my emotions and writing them out, and that's how it came to be. And we just of course we had an idea for a sound. We wanted warm guitar and light airy vocals, but we didn't say, okay, like this song or like this artist. It came very naturally.
On this song particular, was it originally written on the ukulele? And folks who are being introduced to Mila for the first time, she's an amazing ukulele player. And that is, one of the things that I grasped on and, attracted me to her music, was just, the whole concept of, the 4-string ukulele and the sounds that Mila can get out of it. So was the song that's coming out, that you're currently working on, that will hopefully be out in March, was it originally written on the ukulele?
Yeah, it was just me sitting down with the ukulele and all my feelings on April 1st. When you listen to this in retrospect, it's gonna make sense, that the date, mentioning the date. It was April 1st. Yes.
Good. So we're extremely excited, and being your manager and everything, I know I've already gotten little tidbits of it and everything. So super excited, and we're all looking forward to being able to get that out there. You, at the start of the podcast, you talked a little bit about your social media and your social media presence, and I know you and I have had these discussions. I've had these discussions with hundreds of artists that I've come across and everything, of the importance of social media, because in this day of age, that's how you kind of get found and get new listeners and everything, and the way that the music industry is going and whatnot. But you in particular, your social media, I mean, besides the fact that the little tidbits that you're doing in your bedroom or in the living room or in the dining room, you incorporate a lot of nature, and that is one of the other things that was extremely, I don't know, fascinating when I first came across your music and everything. And I know one of the live streams that we did is that you did it outside, which was like 100% unique of any of the live streams that we did during our COVID live stream series. And the first live stream that we did is that you were, I believe, in your bedroom or in a living room, and the second one we did, you were outside. So those that do follow you and are going to listen to this, is that being in Southern California, is that our hillsides and our nature, I mean, it is abundant and everything, but we also have like 358 days of sunshine a year and everything. So when you and I first started talking and building this relationship, and listening to how much you were into nature and everything, I mean, the first thing I'm trying to grasp in my head is like, how do you plan those sort of things, like layer wise? Is because 4 months, 5 months out of the year, it's got to be extremely cold. in your, in your, the term we use, your neck of the woods and everything. But
Mm.
you have found a way to, and I may not be using the right words here, and if folks who are listening to this can put their own words to the sentence, of harmonizing nature in your music and not combining them, but making them both extremely important in your work life, in your music life, in your personal life. And those are some really cool and great things to watch in your social media, on your Instagram and on your TikToks. Talk a little bit about that. Like, how did you grow? Did you grow up? Your family, taking you to the woods and going camping and going for these hikes? Or is this something that you learned, in your adolescent years and as you got into your teens and now as an adult?
Yeah. So my love for nature is definitely a nurture thing. My family is very outdoorsy, has always been. It's funny because I grew up in Berlin and I still live there. So obviously that's a huge, huge city. But then I'm just always drawn to the outdoors, and I have always been. And I'm just my happiest outside. Doesn't really matter the the weather so much. Although, it's nicer when there's sunshine. When you were just saying that about all your sunny days, I got really jealous because it's been so gloomy here lately. Yeah, so that's just something that comes really natural to me, and that's also where I feel the most myself, just when I'm just surrounded by Mother Earth and all the things all the things she has to offer. So yeah, as you said, that's also why I incorporate that into my music so much, because it's a huge part of my personality. And I think it's, it offers a lot of space for imagery as well, because so many things in our lives relate to nature, or can be related to the things happening around us. The song that's coming out in the spring is a perfect example for that, because it relates life and the phases we go through in life to the seasons, and how the seasons are always changing. And even if the winter this particular season might not be the best, there's a new one right around the corner. And things like this I find a lot of comfort in, I guess. Sorry, what was the rest of the question? I got lost there.
No, you answered it perfectly. So with that, with when you talk about Berlin, how far do you actually have to travel? I mean, us, stupid Americans, our geography is like absolutely crummy. Is that, so I envision Berlin being this huge city, but then,
Mm-hmm.
You have all these nature shots. How far do you have to travel to get to those kind of places from Berlin?
So I grew up, and I still also live in an area that I guess if this was the state, it's not really suburbia. It's a city, but it's not right in the city center. So I travel. If I want to go to the city center, if I want to go to Brandenburg Gate or Checkpoint Charlie, I travel a couple of minutes. And if I want to go to the woods the other direction, I travel equally long. So I'm really kind of in the sweet spot. And some of the stuff I post and I shoot, and if I have, I batch my content sometimes. If I know I'm going to be on a hike, then I try and film a couple of different videos or take a couple of photos. But some of them are also in the park, to be honest. If I don't have time, the park will have to do.
And not to put you on the spot or anything, and if you don't know, that's perfectly fine. But I, because we live in Southern California, and it's funny because my daughter has recently moved off to Boston, which is in Massachusetts, which is on the opposite side of where I'm at, but cold weather,
Yeah.
a winter actually. And so like going over to REI, which in California is our like, a place where you get, that kind of winter gear and, hats and jackets and boots and everything. And like, I'm sitting there like envious of her because, there's so many cool colors and, the cool jackets and the cool pants. And, I've lived in Southern California my entire life, and there's absolutely no need whatsoever for those sort of things. And, So are there any type of brands that you like? Because it's when I get to see, some of your TikToks and your Instagram, it just goes back and, of like, oh, this is a whole wardrobe that we don't even know about in California. So are there certain things that you really like?
Yes. So I guess my favorite outdoorsy brands would be the North Face. Always love them. Their raincoats, their winter jackets, all the really durable stuff I get from them. And then two very, very German ones, Jack Wolfskin and Birkenstock, or Birkenstock, if you want to pronounce it how it was intended. Those two. It's such a cliche for me, but I live in my Birkenstocks. I was in the Emirates, the United Arab Emirates, in November, and obviously it's the desert, so I brought my handy Birkenstocks. And I was at the expo and just walking around, and this dude came up to me and started speaking to me in German, and I was so confused why he knew my nationality. When you're abroad and you see people and you can kind of guess where they're from, and you kind of know when you see someone from your country, you kind of know by their behavior, the way they dress. But he was so confident, and I asked him, I was like, like, how do you? And he just pointed down at my feet, and I was wearing the Birkenstocks, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah.
And here in California, like, I know what the Birkenstock brand is, but us being in California, I would have just only assumed that the only thing they made were sandals. Like, that's it. Like, all they make, but they make other stuff, right? Besides sandals.
Yeah, I do think so. I mostly use the sandals as well. I really, really love those, and we use them as slippers inside. When the floors get cold, which is probably something that you also don't have to think about. Yeah,
no.
9 months of the year we wear shoes inside, and that's also where they really come in handy because they're so comfy.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. So why don't you tell everyone really quickly as we wrap up here where they can find you on social media?
Yes. So Instagram is always a big one. My Instagram handle is Mila Ziska, MilaZiska. Same on TikTok. On Facebook, it's Mila Ziska Music, and YouTube also just Mila Ziska.
And we do have on High Plateau Productions, obviously on our website and on our Instagram, we do have a link to Mila's stuff. So once again, Mila is currently working on some amazing music. And, as I always give the disclaimer here, is that we try not to be biased towards the artists that we manage, but also at the same time, we are excited to hear this new music that is coming out. And we are hoping that maybe, late March, beginning of April, that we may see a new song for Mila. Please, everybody, head on over to her Instagram accounts and her Spotify accounts and follow her. Recently, one of your songs on Spotify finally moved over the 10,000 stream mark, which was pretty awesome. So
that was great.
I believe almost all your songs now over on Spotify are over that coveted 10,000 mark, are very, very close and everything. So truly blessed and truly appreciative to have you on board, Mila. And we just look really with a lot of glee and a lot of smiles to what 2022 is going to come for you and beyond. And then also I will drop a little bit of a tidbit, as a teaser with Mila's new single coming out, hopefully end of March, beginning of April. We are looking of getting Mila over into the London area in April or May to do her first show in London. So those of you who follow Mila, who might be in the UK area, obviously when we announce that and everything, High Plateau Productions would love to give out some comp tickets to some of her biggest fans and everything to come out to one of her shows and maybe do a meet and greet beforehand or a meet and greet afterwards, because it'll be exciting to get Mila to actually play some of this amazing music in an actual venue with an actual mix board, with actual speakers and actual fans, and have that entire new environment that, as you guys have heard, that Mila's, releases have all been during a COVID sort of, era and everything. So we're super excited to look forward to that. And we'll be announcing some of that stuff, hopefully in March too. So Mila, thank you for your time. These 30-minute podcasts go by so quick and everything, and super excited. So thank you for your time, and we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Awesome. This is David Fernandez from Plateau Productions, and you've been listening to Beyond the Plateau, a podcast of Plateau Productions. Everyone have a great evening. Thank you.